guys, Jackie from Manchester. Welcome to part 2 of the COVID-19 course, if you want to call it that, and looking at the impact it's had on the higher education sector. Split it into parts. Part 1 was sort of like terminology and an introduction. Part 2 is interesting. It looks at it from a different angle. So SAGE, Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies, have published a paper a few days ago, September the 3rd, and it sort of raises concerns. I've picked out the key points anyway, so let's have a look at what it says. They are sort of like recommending universities to be on high alert. They are saying that all universities should expect cases. So it's important not to be alarmed really, because it's probably bound to happen. You're gonna hear rumours, or there's an outbreak, mass confusion and panic, and that's what they want to avoid. So yeah, an outbreak is 2 or more cases that are connected to a particular setting, so a department or a halls, for example. So they talk about students in general, basically, like Manchester, where I live, sort of 3 huge universities. We've got Salford, the University of Manchester, and we've got Manchester Met. Massive sort of city, and they talk about this mass movement of students leaving home, going back to their family home, sort of international students, and the impact that has on public transport and the surrounding areas. Don't forget, this is coming from like a scientific perspective, so they talk about the age group of the majority of students being under 25, and there's problems associated with that age group. For example, a lot of people in that age group have been found to be asymptomatic. I can never say it. Asymptomatic, so it's hard to detect. Then there's the increased sort of socialising among students in general, alcohol. They're talking about parties and to be aware and on alert of super spreader events, they call it, so house parties, things like that. So if you've got a student who's asymptomatic and they are at a party, it's just they are sort of raising awareness basically on what to look out for and to be careful and to be alert, as like what the government advice is basically. It's good news. Their findings say that people under the age of 25 who contract COVID, death is extremely rare, but obviously there's the wider community, so it is a serious issue. This group, they've done research, looked at America, and they found that this particular group under 25 have the lowest levels of compliance with physical distancing, social distancing, and isolation compliance. In fact, one study in America found that 93% had left home before the 7 days of isolation was up. So there's going to be strict guidance. They've advised the universities to add clauses to their code of conduct and to add penalties for anyone who breaks quarantine. Then there's like the concerns that will students take it seriously. Freshers' flu is a term we're all sort of familiar with, and if you've got just a bit of a cough, would you just pass it off? So there's going to be sort of clear guidance on what to do, and we'll talk about that in a moment. They are concerned about the media, like blame and shame, sort of, you've all heard the term COVID idiots, like this. So, students, the light's going to be on students, and I just did a quick search before, and the BBC are already sort of coming across with these headlines. Students returning to university could spark COVID avalanche. I mean, they've got a point, but what I'm trying to say is the light's going to be shone on students, basically. They want to totally restrict sort of socialising. They talk about the first 2 weeks of term being absolutely crucial. They draw upon sort of research from America, Alabama. Apparently there was 560 cases after a week. and 30 to 80% were asymptomatic. They're worried about sort of Christmas, that's going to be critical, that if sort of cases are going round undetected, and then at the end of term 1 all these students mass migrate back home, so that's a worry. They raise that as a concern. They want students to understand the symptoms, even if it's mild. They sort of talk about this, or wait and see, I'll be alright. They're saying that is not acceptable. If you have any mild symptoms, then you should be tested. There's talk about having easy access to a test. There's talk of sort of testing all students, mass testing, and doing it regular. And the universities making it easier for you to isolate, offering reassurance, making the exceptional factors, which I'm going to talk about, the OIA, sort of easier, not putting barriers in place, with finance extensions, being able to learn online, things like that. They want all students to kind of make a pledge to wear a mask, to physical distance, to agree to the government socialising advice, to follow health and safety, so that's hand washing, to follow government quarantine rules. So what to do if you do have symptoms, even if it's mild or you think it's fresh as flu? You've got a responsibility, is what they're saying. So you contact the NHS, you contact someone at university, your course leader. If you're in halls, a halls manager. If you're working, you contact your employer. You follow the track and trace guidance and the government quarantine advice. And as I said before, universities should make it very, very easy for you. They should provide you with a space. If you're living in halls, they're sort of advising universities to have a dedicated sort of accommodation for people that need to isolate. They don't want students with COVID travelling home, putting their families at risk. So yeah, it's a really interesting read. So that was the Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies. It's online. It was published on the 3rd of September. So it looks at students, mass migration, whether you're under 25, and the concerns with socialising, super spreader events, that the university should make it easy and support you if you do have to isolate, and guidance on what to do if you have symptoms, not shrug it off as fresh as flu. So yeah, that's all from part 2. Come and join me in part 3, because I talk about the quality standards, and there's been a lot of concern about, I don't want to do an online degree. So it's about what the universities have done and sort of the guidance that they have to follow to make sure that you are getting the best course. So yeah, that's all for part 2. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.